So this is what it's like to be a person. You may have had other ideas, and you may have been taught other things. And our minds are often filled with so many ideas about how we should be and how we're supposed to be and how others are supposed to be and how the world's supposed to be. But it's not. It's like this. Right? I mean, this is it. I'm sorry if that comes as a shock. I remember asking myself once years ago when I was really depressed and just struggling with a lot of things in life. I remember thinking, stay with me here. I was like, what would you rather have? $1 million of Monopoly money? Or like $20? Even $10, $10. 10 real dollars. Or $1 million of Monopoly money. Because $1 million, it sounds exciting. Like, even if it's Monopoly money, it's like, right? But like $10, it's just 10, are you guys with me on this? It's just 10 bucks, right? But you can actually buy something real for $10. You can go get a meal or something. Like, it's actually useful. A lot of you have this look on your face like, what the fuck's he talking about? Funny you should ask. Let me explain. In this analogy, the million Monopoly dollars are all the thoughts and ideas and all these like plans and grand visions and all this stuff that you're are gonna be or supposed to be or and the $10 is just what you really are. It's just this moment right here, right now. But my argument is that the $10 is way better than the $1 million of Monopoly money. Because it's real, you can actually do something with that. And so it's hard sometimes to drop in and be present with this reality because the reality in our minds is often so much grander and more, impressive. And it can be quite humbling to just be yourself, to just be here now. But there are real things of value available to you here now in the way that they will never be in your mind and in these fantasies and ideas. Right now in this moment, there's real presence. There's real contact with real people. There's love, connection, nourishment, peace. Truth, depth. Whereas all those thoughts, not only are they empty, but they're very isolating. Because the thing about all our fantasies and ideas, we're kind of in them just alone, right? I mean, you can get pretty lonely in all those ideas and stories. And we often are so consumed by them that we miss out on this, just this, like this moment. Yeah, this one. It's not much, but it's what we got. And you know, we're all in it together. Look at this. We're all sitting here in this moment. And we can embrace ourselves and each other in this moment. You know, I know this was true for me for many years. I'm assuming this is true for many of us. I like the idea of embracing myself, but I was like, well, but first I have to become embraceable. I have to first, get it together and fix myself on many levels. Then I'll be like embraceable. I'll be lovable. And then I'll totally love myself. Once I live up to that. But that doesn't take love. Love is actually accepting, ourselves or whoever exactly as they are. Demanding that we become a certain way before we can embrace ourselves is actually a very intense form of rejection. Right? It's pretty antithetical to love. Right? Because love is like, nah, it's unconditional, I'm just embracing this as it is. And much to my surprise, the actual variable is not what the circumstance is and whether it's worthy of my love or not, whether it's lovable or not. The actual variable is how much capacity to love can I have? Meaning, can I embrace this moment exactly as it is, with all its flaws? The more flaws, the more love it takes, right? But the weird thing is that the loving feels hella good. The loving is the thing that's so rewarding. It's no great achievement to love something that's perfect. You know what I mean? That's not love, that's just getting what you want. Right? You're like, this is exactly what I want. This just meets my needs. Love is forgiveness. Can we allow and forgive ourselves? Can we just allow this moment? Can we forgive this moment for all its imperfections? And if you can't, can you forgive yourself for that? Can you forgive yourself for not being able to love this present moment? I think it was Joseph Goldstein who said that suffering is the urge to improve. You know that reflex, that impulse to improve? Like how many people would like to improve this moment right now? Anyone trying to, and you kind of wiggle with it, right? Like, wait, I want to, wait, a little more, like this. But that struggle, that improvement, it actually, the underlying, the subtext is a rejection of the way it is. So it's actually kind of violent in its nature. It's saying, no, I reject this. I'm rejecting this the way it is now. This does not live up to my expectations. I was promised something better. And we think what causes our suffering is the circumstance that we find ourselves in. It's what we're feeling now, that if only these things change, then I'd be happy. But I can't be happy with this. But I invite you to explore this, but I suggest to you that that's not what's actually causing the suffering. What's causing the suffering is the way we're fighting and rejecting it. And it's that tension, it's that pushing away, it's that... That's the suffering. Because in doing that, we abandon ourselves, we abandon each other, we abandon this life. And we further go into this kind of isolation, even with our own selves. Be like isolated from your own self, isolated from your own being. And this connection with yourself, this embracing of this being that you are, nothing's going to make you feel better than that. And you might have to just take my word for it. But I guarantee you, like that will be more satisfying and fulfilling than whatever you think it, will do it for you. Because what can be better than just being at peace with yourself? Right? I mean, if you're at peace with yourself, like, that's it. It's not what happens as much as we think it's what's happening, but it's not what happens, it's how do we feel about what's happening. When we can really embrace ourselves and each other, it goes both ways. Even difficult things can actually be quite beautiful. Sadness and grief, because I know there's a lot of people in the room grieving, it can be one of the most beautiful feelings you'll ever have when you're not fighting it, when you're not judging it and rejecting it. It's like, when you hear a sad song, you don't think like, okay, we got to fix this song. No, we got to cheer this song up. It's we got to pep it up, put it in a major key, right? You hear the heartbreaking piece of music or a sad movie or something, and it's beautiful, right? I mean, it's great. So why is your own sadness any different? why is your own suffering any different than some heartbreaking film or book or music or whatever, poetry? Whatever is sitting right here, right now in you is a work of art. I mean, like a real work of art. Completely unique, beautiful manifestation of being. And then this small mind goes, nah, that sucks. It's like, no, you're a manifestation of the universe and the divine and whatever and all your, many facets. But I'm fat. I'm a little something. I would just say we've been misinformed. Our ideas about how it's supposed to be or how you're supposed to be. I mean, sometimes you can trace them back. Have you ever followed one of your ideas back and you realize it's like, oh, when I was 10, I heard this stupid thing and I've never updated the file. It's tricky that, once you get into spiritual practice, it almost can become worse. Because now you're you're a practitioner. You're Buddhist, you're supposed to be happy. And you're like, well, I've been meditating for a while, and then there's all well, I'm attached. Shouldn't be attached. Fuck, I'm attached again. I thought I was over it. I had that one really good meditation. But it's just another form of rejection. It's crazy. It's just I used to call it judgment 2.0. Or it's I used to just judge myself on things I did, but now it's I get to judge myself on even the contents of my mind. It's just oh, I have too many thoughts, or they're too, angry, or... That's not what spirituality is about. It's really funny what it's really about. It's, in my experience, it's so funny. I've struggled for so long and tried so hard for so many years. Only to find that it's really just about being this. And all the reasons when I say, no, it's being this, and everything in your mind that goes, no, that's the problem. Everything in your mind right now that is convincing you that this isn't it, that this right now, no, now, this right here, that this somehow isn't it. This isn't right, and you're not right, and I'm definitely not right. It's it's those ideas that are making this unpleasant. Because, imagine if we could just flip your mind off, where you just wouldn't think anything for 5 minutes. You would just be here, right? It'd be exactly the same. You'd be sitting here. Just like you're sitting here now. And there just wouldn't be this commentary that's going, nah, this is fucked up, and oh, I gotta do this. And so you're just this being, right? Being, noun, verb. So you're just being, not bothering anybody. And then these thoughts come in, and they start judging, and they got all these agendas. And then you got to like jump through all these hoops. And then the belief becomes, well, if I jump through all the hoops, then I'll be happy. But the irony is like, no, if you just get the hoops, don't believe the hoops. Hey, that's going to be my new record. Don't believe the hoops? Huh? No? All right. You don't have to wait till you jump through the hoops. You could be all right with this just right now. You can just admit that it's like this. This making sense? Any questions or comments? Anyone doesn't believe me? Don't believe the hoop, it's a sequel? No? Oh, come on. Well?
For me, when the mind is trying like used car salesman shit, that's really easy to brush off.
What?
When my mind is doing like used car salesman shit, it's like, nah, man. It's like, fuck you. Like,
right.
That's really easy to do. It's easy, like, I'm not you. You're a pain in the ass. When it feels like I'm in a fist fight, screaming match in a phone booth with my thoughts, and no matter which way I turn, I can't protect myself. And I like whimpering, I'm not my thoughts. And like my thoughts roar back, oh, you want to bet, motherfucker? How do you deal with that? Because it's not particularly pleasant.
You mean when you're getting kind of so bombarded by critical thoughts?
No, not critical thoughts per se. Like narratives and ideas and characters and stuff that are that reflect poorly on me or the place around me, or a lot of fear more than anything. I don't know how to not repress that.
Right.
And I don't want to just like run away, and I don't want to just crush it, because I did that. I'm really good at that, and that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out a more skillful way to handle this, besides either just getting pummeled or like playing emotional whack-a-mole.
Emotional racquetball?
Whack-a-mole.
Whack-a-mole.
Soothe that.
Right. You know, it's interesting, like, but in that, what is it that you're trying to get rid of? Like the whack-a-mole that pops up and you're hitting it down, like, what is it that you want to hit down?
I don't know, the version of myself that the thoughts all suggested. Not that there's anything wrong with what I'm doing. I don't know, it's hard to articulate, but
yeah.
I guess it could be judgment, because it feels like the thoughts are often, I wouldn't want to speak the content out loud for fear that it might be attributed to me. And I don't know, I feel responsible for thoughts that are repulsive and frightening to me. They feel like they're a product of me. And that's not, is that a little clearer?
Yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, you're having thoughts, and then those thoughts are scaring you. And because they're scaring you, you want to get rid of them. You know, the thing that's problematic with that is that it brings you right back to being at war with yourself. Right? And it's like this internal fight. The thing about internal fights is you always lose, because you're the one fighting. There's no way to win it, you know what I mean? Because either way, you're going to get your ass kicked. So for me, it's always, the question is, how do I stop the fight? How do I actually stop fighting what's happening? And so what would it be like to not be scared of the thoughts? Like to see the thoughts. Or actually, wait, see, it's so fucking tricky. I'm making the same mistake. Because like, I'm like, oh, what's it like to not be afraid? It's like, and again, okay, we go right back to trying to change the experience. So instead, what would it be like to have compassion for that fear? To actually, because when you said it's fear, I was really moved by that. Like I noticed when you were talking and then you said, I guess it's fear. Like I noticed something shifted in me when you said it. There was like something vulnerable about that. So when you let yourself feel that and actually like, oh, you know what's happening right now is I'm fucking scared. That's actually what's happening right now. There's something really kind of disarming about that. Now often then we get scared of being scared. Right? It's like, oh shit, I'm scared, I gotta stop being scared. It's like, well, that's because you're scared. But if you can bring compassion to that, and I gotta say, you know, one thing I'm not so into these days is that I feel like, and I'm curious if you guys feel this too, I feel like sometimes in Buddhism there's this undercurrent of that you're kind of supposed to do it on your own. Like you're supposed to kind of meditate and kind of take care of it alone. And I actually feel more and more like we really need each other. And I gotta say, especially if I'm scared, I gotta connect with somebody else. Like I've gotta reach out. And that's a really healthy and natural thing. You know, we're animals, right, on some level. And the instinct of most animals, like, if I'm scared, it's like, run back to the pack, to the tribe, to the, get other beings around you. And I actually think one of the things that happens is that it's like when we're ashamed of our feelings and our fears, then we isolate more. We're like, well, I can't talk to you about this. And then it becomes this real cycle of like this perpetuated thing. You know what I mean? Where like, it's like, well, I got to feel better before I reach out. And it's like, but reaching out's the thing that'll make you feel better. So it becomes this like weird catch-22, like, well, and I find with fear almost more than anything. Because if I can connect with someone, it's like, oh, okay. Like, I'm part of a tribe then. And with a lot of thoughts, I do a practice a lot where if there's a lot of thoughts, I try to drop into like, but what's the underlying emotion driving all these thoughts? Because in my observation, a lot of times the thoughts kind of come out of an emotional soil. They kind of like grow, like I think of the thoughts as the stuff that grows out of the soil of the emotion. So it's like, well, I feel angry, but then I'm having all these angry thoughts. And then I'm just paying attention to them. I find if I actually then drop into the source of it, like the emotion of it, it grounds me so much more. It's just like, I land in it. And then it stops that spin where I'm just spinning over and over and over and over and over. You know that experience where you've had the same thought? Where you're just like, and it's almost kind of weird because you're like, I've already thought that. Or you're like, well, when I go home, I'm going to say this to this person. And then you keep doing it. And you're like, I know, I heard you. I know, we're going to say that to this person. I got you. And it's like, so whenever I see that, I always get suspicious. I'm like, well, what's going on there? And my experience is that if that's happening, it's an emotional thing. And if I drop into my body and feel it in my body as a somatic experience, it really lands. And it gets out of that perpetuated spin. And I would, I would forgive yourself for having whatever thoughts you have. I think it's not against the law to have thoughts, whatever they are. Actually, I'm amazed. I get into it. I'm like, wow, that is the craziest thought ever. I don't know what this thing does, Just makes up thoughts. Some of them surprise me. But I think it's okay. I don't think it's a crime. I mean, you don't want to act them out. That would be a crime, so don't do that. But, whatever's going on inside, you can just, like I said, make room for it. And that'll be soothing, inherently soothing. Because the thing that makes it always agitating is this fight, having this thought, I got to get rid of it, I'm back to the, and it's that battle that just keeps going and going. Does that make sense? No? Yeah.
The problem that I'm running up against a lot is when the thought actually is useful.
Yeah.
And then, for example, when I'm trying to make a decision that I find very important, I actually really do need to think about it.
Yeah.
So, I've just been having a lot of trouble trying to stay present, but also feeling like, wow, I need to do some serious, decision making.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to be really clear because this is a common misconception. I'm in no way putting down thoughts. I know it kind of sounds like it, but thinking is a very useful tool. I'm not saying we shouldn't think. What I'm saying is there's a saying in these communities I like. It says the mind is a great servant but a terrible master. So, or another way, sometimes it's are you having the thoughts or are the thoughts having you? So what you're describing is a little different. You're describing hey, I got this situation. I need to give it some thought. I really need to think things through, make a decision, make a plan. That's using thought in a deliberate, intentional, constructive way. That's good. Don't stop doing that. Just want to be sure. What we're talking about is the kind of discursive thinking when you don't want to be thinking. Like when we're meditating. And you're hey, I'm going to be here with my breath, but then there's just all these thoughts that are involuntary. They're not helpful. You're talking about useful, constructive thinking. Right? What I'm talking about is this never-ending, these thoughts that aren't helpful. Using your thoughts as a tool, as a servant, so to speak. As opposed to the master, where then the thoughts take over. The mind actually puts itself in the driver's seat. And now it's no, motherfucker, I'm going to tell you how to be. You see the difference? Does that make sense? Okay. Oh, all right, go ahead.
It's quick, it's related.
Yeah. No, good. Because her questions are always really hard.
No, it's going to be super simple. Well, and I was going to say that I don't feel like Buddhism makes me feel isolating because I always think of the Dharma, the Sangha.
Right.
So I always think of that part. And I've noticed on retreat, even when there's silence, I still don't feel isolated.
Mm.
And I we come here, right? So
Yeah.
actually it makes me feel less isolated.
Good.
But I was just thinking about what the other two questions and just the inclining the mind, if you're doing metta or even...
Speak up so people can hear you.
Oh my gosh. Inclining the mind, or if you're doing metta, or just even when you were talking about the thoughts, actually thinking to plan something or make a decision, as opposed to just okay, I just thought about that weird conversation with my ex-boyfriend 500 times, and yesterday and today and probably tomorrow again, and that feels just like a habitual, some kind of habitual weird, I don't know, broken record thing. But so there's got to be but you were talking about just letting things be there, but like I also don't feel like I want to engage. Like I feel like I want to incline the mind in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But is that fighting with it, like you said? Because it doesn't seem like it is, but how do you accept what's happening, maybe accept what's going on in your body on a somatic level, but also incline the mind away from maybe or towards something else that's not just obsessively going over some painful event or conversation or thought you've already had a million times.
Yeah. And you think that's a simple, quick question?
I thought it was a simple question.
No, I'm just kidding. We're old friends. You know, here's the thing. Like when you were talking about your thoughts about your boyfriend, you actually said, you're like, and then I have this, what'd you call it? This weird, it's a couple of like nice rejecting terms in there of like, it's some habitual weird thing. Right? You said that about,
I don't know.
you
It's
did.
habitual probably, but I think maybe the conversation was weird. Like, let's say we had a complicated conversation or something seemed, and I'm trying to like analyze it, like what went wrong?
Right.
And then just going over that, and that's not, I don't really want to let the
No,
mind go
but
that way.
what I find is useful is like, if I see myself thinking that, or if you got these thoughts, it's like, well, yeah, because you're upset. Like, it's not because there's something wrong. Like, if your mind is doing that, it's like, yeah, it's trying to figure something out. And I mean, the mind's actually trying to help all of us. That's the punchline. That's the irony of this whole thing. It's just that all it has to offer is thoughts. Like, no matter what the situation is, it's like, I got thoughts. And the thing is, there's a lot of situations in life where thoughts aren't the answer. Like, it's not a question of thinking. It could be like, it's like an emotional thing, or it's, like we're hurt, or we got into a fight and like it upset us, or it hurt us, or we're scared, or we're, and what we need is like, a lot of times what we need is soothing or support. Like I tell a lot of people, like a lot of students and clients, like, a lot of times we're trying to figure something out, and I'm always saying like, hey, you don't need to figure something out, you need soothing. Like the actual need in the moment is some kind of calming, soothing thing. It's not a puzzle that needs solving. Like, there's nothing to solve. It's like, ouch, that hurt, and you need like a little love. And it's like, oh, but why? It's like, there's no why, it just sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I totally know what you mean.
And so when I see that kind of repetitive thing, it's like if we were hanging out and you like kept talking about the same thing over and over again, I would go like, hey Cassandra, what's going on with that? Like, wow, that must be really bothering you. That's like the 5th time you brought that up. You know what I mean? Like, I would take that as a sign to go deeper and be like, hey, what's going on? So I think that's the problem, is if we vilify thoughts, I don't want to suggest that we should have an antagonistic relationship with our own thoughts. See what I mean?
Right, but how do we, it seems to me, for example, and I'm just using this as an example, like, if my mind, if the thoughts are just continuing on that, some kind of whatever, like when you get like somebody saying private eyes the other night, just to be mean, and that was stuck in all of our heads for like, literally like 5 hours. I'm not gonna sing it because that would be cool, but it just, you probably already got it singing. But it literally was like, it was really going. I mean, then that did not cause me pain, it was just funny. But I feel like when I have a repetitive thought, and maybe there's soothing that needs to happen, but I also feel like there's some kind of, like that obsessive thinking. Like I want to let it be there, but it seems like there's got to be a way to incline the mind away from that, or in a.
Yeah,
like what we do with
meditation.
metta, right?
Meditation really helps that. Yeah, I mean, we kind of come back to the breath and the body.
So that's
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Yeah, I mean, what?
I don't think let me think about my question, and I'll ask.
All right, we'll talk later.
Thinking it through.
Internet question?
No.
Or your own question? Okay, great.
As far as the Buddhism and feeling alone and all that, I think it would be helpful if the teachers didn't always just say, well, you should sit with that.
Yeah.
You know, because that so often is like the advice. And it's like,
Right.
fine, but, you know, then that's just me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I know a lot of people hate it, but, you know, when we break up into pairs or dyads or whatever, it's like I personally get a lot out of that because it's interesting to hear other people talk about the exact same experience.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not the only person going through this,
Yeah.
or how I relate to it. So.
Yeah, you know, I think the thing with Buddhism is that it's subject to kind of, I think it's subject to fashion, like everything else. And within the communities, you know, like that's actually, I feel like the whole just sit with it is starting to be less fashionable, at least in this community for sure. I never say that. What I will say though, a lot of times if I'm sitting with a student or a client is I'll say, let's sit with that together. You know, like I'm sitting with someone and they're upset. I'm like, yeah, great, let's be upset together. Like I'll be here with you. I feel a lot of times like when if I'm turning to a friend, it's like for me, a lot of times the feeling's like, hey, I'm like this right now. Would you just help me be with it? Like I don't need you to fix it. I need to be with this, but it's too hard to be with it alone. Can you just help me be with it? And you don't need to do anything. Just like let's just be here. And so it's very similar. It just includes another person. I personally have always found that to be much more helpful. Is it like that for you?
I mean, it depends on what I'm looking for, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, the instance I'm thinking of in particular was the last retreat I was on,
Mhm.
where I brought up some struggles I was having in a interview. And basically, the instruction was just simply, well, sit with that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, fine, but that's not, you know, and I had been sitting with that. You know,
Yeah, no, I hate that
and
instruction.
if it's not moving, and, you know, then what do you do with it? But,
I still
but
resent.
At the end of the retreat, where you
Yeah.
really get to talk to people, and you're just like, that just released all this stuff. That's like, oh right, okay, I'm not the only person going through this. Other people are struggling with it as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree. I still resent many a teacher who told me just to sit with it. Really, I don't. I look back. I mean, I don't resent them a lot, but I'm like, yeah, that sucked. That wasn't helpful. Really, I don't find that to be a great instruction. I think it's a very limited instruction. I feel like it's very idealistic. It sort of sounds good, and
And
it.
it makes you feel like you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And you do to some degree, for sure, but,
Yeah, but you know, we can do a lot of things like ourselves, but with support. It's like I'm still the one who has to do it, but I'm supported. And that's very different than like, well, I have to do it, but I'm all alone with it. I mean, there's a difference between like, oh, I'll do it for you and I'll support you in doing it. You know? Yeah, it's just the thing. You'll hear that for people who are new. That's a very common like Buddhist thing. They'll just sit with it. I think it's very limited. I mean, a lot of times like, yeah, I know, no shit, like I can't. That's why I'm here talking to you. You know, like I don't know. I think sometimes it's just like some cliche Buddhist thing teachers say. You know. So just sit with that for a while, Jim.
That's why we're here and meditate.
What's that?
That's why we're here.
All right, I got it. Last one in the back there. Sorry I couldn't get to everyone. We only have so much time. Yeah.
I really want to thank you for the meditation and the talk following it. It's been extremely relevant to what I'm going through personally right now. And during the meditation, I was just, I've had a lot of emotional things come up lately with like, and so it's really relevant because the conditioning that you're talking about, like following the thought back to its origins, and I've been working a lot with that, and I've been working a lot with metta. And I'm trying to like challenge these ideas that I'm unlovable and like things about myself that I've been taught to not appreciate and to not care about and to hate. And so I was like kind of already just started doing the same thing that you were like telling us to, like, and it was just, or talking about, and I just like went into this place where I like really connected to all these parts of my body that I just am so terrible to, and just like was sending them love. And then through doing that, I like connected with this like part of myself that's terrified and is a small child, and like is able to like visualize like holding that part of myself. And yeah, and it was incredible. It was just like really released a lot, and then just like sitting with like grief, but like not being afraid of it, and just like being able to like love myself and nurture myself through it is like what I just experienced tonight.
Yeah.
Which is really beautiful. So I just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. It's so, it's so kind of, what's the word I'm looking at? It's kind of amazing, but in a sad way. Like I look at you, like I don't know you, and I see this, beautiful human being, and then you're talking about like in all these ways that I'm unlovable, or that you have these programs, and I don't know you, so I look like I don't know those stories. Like I didn't get the memo that you're unlovable, So I look at you, and it's hard to imagine. I'm like, oh my God, really? You feel unlovable? Like when I heard you say that, it's like heartbreaking. I mean, any of you. Like I look around, and like I'm assuming some of you feel unlovable. It's absurd. From up here, it's the most ridiculous thing I can imagine. I mean, I'm looking, nobody, all of you look very lovable to me. And other than the story in your head, like I'm telling you, it's not out here in this reality. I know we all got these stories in our heads, but like, it's just funny to look around and to be like, wow, some of these people have a story in their head that they're unlovable, but it's absurd. It's like if I was like, I had this story in my head that I'm an elf. And you'd be like, nah, dude, you're not. You're not. Like, no, like my parents told me I was an elf. And I gotta get fixed. And so I'm telling you, for what it's worth, from up here, you all look incredibly lovable. And the idea that, like, you all look around. Can you imagine that some of these people are unlovable? Is that not the craziest shit you ever heard? But that's how it works, right? Our heads, we got things in our heads, and they tell us things, and they tell us we're unlovable. Fuck you. Next time that voice says unlovable, just fuck you. I'm telling you.
Okay, so that's your answer to my question.
Yeah. That's a good note to end on. Announcements?
Yeah, sure. Just a few quick ones. We have 2 day-longs coming up this month on the 14th.
Hey, stand up for a second. This is Jason, our director, and what's your official title?
I think manager.
Manager?
Yeah.
Director.
Moving into the middle class.
All right.
So yeah, we have a day-long on the 14th with Chandra Easton, and one on the 21st with Deborah Eden Tull. We've got flyers up at the desk so you can check out what they're all about. On the 28th, we have 2 events here. At 2 p.m., we're going to have an organizational meeting that's going to be for folks who would like to work on a variety of community service projects. It's going to be twofold. One will be projects like packing bags at the food bank or working at Glide, things just to help the community, but also for people who are feeling fired up after the election and would like to do community organizing. We're going to talk about ways we can do that as well. And then at 6 o'clock on the 28th, we're going to have a movie night here. We're going to have a social event once a month here. Last month we had a potluck. This month is movie night. Next month we're going to have a game night. So look on the calendar on the
Nice.
website. That's all on.
When's the movie night?
The 28th. It's a Saturday.
What movie?
I forget. What's it called, Jim?
Scuba?
Scubo?
I'm putting it on you.
What's that?
It's an animated film that was released this year.
Oh, cool.
Pretty awesome.
Oh, Kubo.
Kubo and the Two Strings.
Ah, okay, okay. Cool. Nice.
Probably will be nominated for an Academy Award.
All right. All right. So to end, just bring your awareness back to your body. And just bring your awareness back and notice how it is right now. Just let yourself sense what it's like to sit here now. May the merit generated by us coming together like this as a sangha, as a community, to support each other in being with what is, being with ourselves as we are, and learning to love and forgive ourselves exactly as we are. And although we can sometimes feel like we're unlovable, it's crazy because I don't think I've ever met an unlovable person in my life. I mean, some difficult people, but unlovable? So why would I suddenly be the one exception to that? It just doesn't add up. It's a false measurement. Lovable and unlovable. That's a made-up thing. It's like the biggest boogeyman of them all. Like, ooh, I'll be unlovable. It's like an adult ghost story. So as we come together and support each other and kind of seeing through these delusional ideas that we all carry around, and we share them with each other so we can help each other. You know, these ideas have so much power when we're all alone with them and we keep them to ourselves. And then we say them out loud and we can often hear the absurdity of them once they're spoken out loud. And so we create this temple, this space where we can come here and really be with ourselves and each other and the truth of our being. And whatever merit is generated by us coming together like this, we dedicate it to beings everywhere. May we all be free. Thank you very much.